Family is the building block of society, and here in America, the family structure has shifted dramatically over the past 50 years. According to the Pew Research Center, 4 out of every 10 births occur outside of marriage, and more children are living in family arrangements that are different due to divorce, remarriage, and cohabitation. When we went to the streets of Pittsburgh to hear what people thought about God, church, and the culture, we met a woman named Sister Reparata who believes the breakdown of family is having a major impact on faith. Tell me from your perspective, what do you think about the church today and Christians?
I think today people have gotten very far afield from religion. They're turning to all sorts of spiritualities. They tend to say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. But what does that really mean? And I don't think they know what it means, but there's definitely been a move away from denominational or established churches.
And why do you think that is, that people are getting more into, spirituality or not really being centered on, being part of a church or something like that?
Well, for one thing, I think there's been a move away from the closeness of the family. People used to have their denominational faith instilled in them by previous generations, especially parents and grandparents. And families are not as close as they used to be, so I think that contributes to the move away from the faith, the institutional faith.
And what church do you belong? You were telling me a little bit about it off camera, but
we are Italian Orthodox or Western Orthodox. That includes all of Western Europe, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Ireland.
And do you think the church is still relevant today? Do you think
I think it's more relevant. It's certainly more needed than ever before.
Why do you think it's more needed from your vantage point?
Again, because I think people have gotten away from the nuclear family and from their institutional churches, and things have just become looser and more vague. Like I said, they just say, I'm spiritual, and what does that really mean?
I like how you, Sister Reparata, you're talking about the family and the breakdown of the family.
Yes.
Because I think that is a big issue that's going on. That's an important institution, God created, and you don't see there's so much breakdown. Like, people don't have parents or mothers or orphans. There's just so much of that happening and so much hurt, where I think people are okay, well, there's a breakdown, or I don't have a parent or somebody to take me to church, so what am I out to do? And they kind of go out to their own vices.
Right, and it's so common right now to have single-parent families. Like I said, we've gotten away from the nuclear family. There's all sorts of groupings now that are considered family, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think as long as people have other supportive people around them to care for them. And, whether that's a same-sex relationship or, an adoptive relationship, those are families too.
And how did God give you a compassion and a heart for families? Because just from our conversation, I appreciate it. It's just you're about the family, or just helping the human family.
I think definitely it was instilled in me by my parents and my grandparents, especially because my grandparents lived with us. So there was a very strong sense of family. And that has continued now that I'm in an Italian community, because the Italians who are involved in our community certainly have a very strong sense of family. They even have a notion of extended family. Anybody who comes into our group automatically becomes family.
And do you feel I just want to ask you, my spirit to feel asked, because there's a lot, going on in our culture when it comes to abortion and attack on the family. What is your perspective on that? What you see that's happening with, these laws and with abortion and terminating the newborn?
Well, we are definitely, I think it goes without saying, pro-life. And I think a big part of being pro-life is certainly we have to care for the babies before, during, and after birth, and we definitely have to care for their mothers. But most especially, we have to take care of them after they're born, too. That's very important. Take care of babies, children, young people, young adults, and also the elderly, because sometimes we tend to forget about the elderly, and we might want to dispatch with them. And we have to take care of human life from cradle to grave.
Do you feel as Christians that, we have different denominations we're part of or beliefs. You think it's like important now than ever that we come together and kind of extend the hand of like, let's sit down and recognize like we're brothers and sisters in Christ?
Absolutely, and you said it right there. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ, and when it comes right down to it, the denomination does not matter. It's just the fact that we're all children of God, and that should include the Jewish people who remain God's people forever. His covenant is eternal with them. The Muslims, the Buddhists, even people of no faith should be sitting at the table and talking with us.
And I think that's like on my heart. I think when we have conversations and we sit down and then we listen to whatever people are saying, because like today we've talked to people of like Muslim background, different backgrounds, and it's really interesting like what you learn and you hear. And I think even that commandment that Jesus says, love one another.
Yes.
And then they will know about him because of the love that we show.
Right, and we cannot get anywhere by separating from one another and going into our own little enclaves and not listening to one another and different cultures and different points of view.
Yeah. And if there's one thing, I've asked everybody this question that you could say, you've told me you watched Cornerstone before, and if there's one thing you could say to Christians and to our viewers, that's something that maybe God has put on your heart for the church, what would you say?
Love one another. That says it all right there. That encapsulates the teaching of Jesus. Love one another.
Thank you so much, Sister Reparata.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Sister Reparata made a lot of good points about the condition of the family, and her conversation made me really think about, if our natural families are such a breakdown that's happening, how does that impact the way we love and treat the human family? I think it's so important as Christians that we put our denominational differences aside and truly reflect the love of Christ, because when we show unity, that truly becomes a bridge, and that's what Jesus wanted us to be all about.